Welcome to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel powered by InsideTexas.com. I'm Joe Cook, got Justin Wells, got Coach Dub with us. Another great edition of Recruiting Intel. Well, we're kind of trying to figure out what the recruiting intel is, but we know that there's some questions. There'll be some questions on the 2026 class, wrapping up a bit on the 2025 class. We know that everybody's focus has somewhat shifted toward the portal. We'll get in on that as much as we can. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. And, of course, head to InsideTexas.com for all the latest. We have a portal tracker up. In fact, I should probably get that repinned. And we'll have as much information as we can on that portal before we get going into the playoff game. And let me make sure we do something here. Can y'all hear me a little bit better now? Does it sound?
I was going to say, your mic, I don't think your mic was on.
I was using the wrong one, but now I got the right one going.
Now you sound like Joe Cook.
There we go.
There we go.
So obviously the transfer portal is going to be on everybody's mind. Before we get going, we can kind of talk about the departures that we know of so far. Jonte Cook, he and the program parted ways earlier in the season. Texas also saw Aaron Bryant, Tassilia Kana, Darian Gillette, and Jure Bledsoe all enter the portal. And as we saw today, per his agency, A&P Sports Agency, Tia Savea, also heading out. There's always a little bit of talk about, oh no, they're losing guys, and especially at defensive tackle. But Jure Bledsoe didn't play, and Aaron Bryant didn't play, and Tia Savea didn't play this year. With Savea, was there any thought, Justin, maybe of preserving a red shirt and having him stick around for next year?
Not to my knowledge. I think at some point in August or during the season, Lole just like passed him. He just lapped him essentially. And even though they played a deep, bench when it came to that D-line with those rotations for snaps, Savea he came in the short end. He was the guy that didn't get as many compared to Bill Norton and Lole and a few of those others. And so, it looked like he's going to be looking for, I believe, his fourth school in 4.5 years.
Yep. This is one of those things.
And these aren't bad losses. Let me people to understand that. These are what we call casualties of war. In college football, they are churning the bottom of the roster constantly. Sark does this on a regular basis. Hey, some of these guys can go ball, and I can't wait to see what Darian Gillette does somewhere. I can't wait to see what Akana does somewhere, Jonte Cook for that matter. But these were necessary means because Texas is trying to bring in bigger, better talent, and that's why they're churning the bottom of this roster.
And, we got this question from Living Rent Free in UT. Did Savea realize he wasn't cut for the SEC? I don't think it's that. Like you had mentioned, you saw the writing on the wall with the playing time. And Coach, somebody made a good point over on the Inside Texas boards. Like, if we're redshirting a 22-year-old, what's the real upside there?
Yeah, that's tough. Redshirt him, maybe giving him a hope and chance to play somewhere else. And I got an article coming up soon about guys that Texas could potentially target in the portal. And so I got a lot of defensive tackles on there because, I'm sure Texas will target a few. And so, but a guy that old, man, redshirting, it's best for him to, on both parties, give him the opportunity to go play somewhere else and finish out his career because you only get to do this one time. And so, good about Texas because they could have burned his red shirt and then his career be over, right? And so great by Coach Sark and his staff. I want to point that out, but he have opportunity to go finish, someone's career somewhere else, and best of luck to him.
Got a couple questions. Cam Dewberry, that one, I don't think that one was going to happen in that class of 2022. I remember Sark, I think, even alluded to it at a donor event or a booster event, and I would be surprised, Justin, if this is someone who makes his way over from Aggieland to the 40 acres.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. Wasn't he in the same group with Kelvin Banks and Cole Hudson and the kid from Jacob Sexton, the kid from Oklahoma? And I thought didn't Cam start at Texas A&M?
I think so. I don't know if it was high school rivalry between Atascocita and Summer Creek, but I feel like only one of Kelvin Banks and Cam Dewberry was going to walk through the door. I don't know if Kelvin, most likely moving on to NFL, is going to affect that, though.
No. I think it also had something to do with Kenyon Green, because I think they knew they were familiar with each other at Atascocita. I think that was a little bit part of him going to A&M as well. But to me, Dewberry's going to go somewhere. He's going to go somewhere and probably start. It's just going to be at a smaller school, and I do not think that school is going to be Texas. Look, Texas, they want another tackle. They want a Swiss Army knife of sorts of a guard and a tackle if possible. Also, the right center if that presents itself, and that very well could. But for Dewberry, I think Texas, they want an experienced guy, but I just it's hard to see him showing up in Austin.
Looking at this one from Tedapare, needs some defensive linemen. Does Texas take 4-star North Carolina defensive lineman Travis Shaw out of the portal, basically make a trade? I looked up his PFF grades, and for whatever that's worth, played the full season for a North Carolina defense that didn't make a bowl. His season-long grade was 66.3. That puts him right about at a little bit better than Alex January. Alex January was 62.3. And then, there's a pretty steep drop off. Like Jermaine Lole was next, and he's up at 74. So they're probably looking for something more like what they would get out of Lole than maybe Shaw. Anybody who's a big human is going to probably attract a good amount of attention. And it's also day 2. So maybe this is someone they circle around on, but it's one of those things where it's because he's just not a big name. It's hard to think like, oh yeah, they're going to go right after him.
People have to understand with the portal, there are like 2 different types of kids. Okay. There are the kids that are trading up that had good years this past season that are trying to manufacture some momentum from that. And then there's guys that didn't make the cut or weren't happy or didn't do their job or just didn't work out at that particular school. I think Texas is looking for guys in the first category. I don't think they're going to take guys in the second category unless it is someone they've known for a long time. They feel like needs another shot, feel like Texas would be a spot to really maximize their potential. There's 2 categories there. You just random guys Texas is not going to go after. They're going to go after guys that started, that played well and played really well, particularly probably in this last season in 2024. And so that's why it's tough to narrow down like guys like a Travis Smith. You're going to look for guys that are looking to upgrade because Texas is looking to upgrade. They don't want to stay status quo. They don't want to take another Savea. They want to take someone a little bit better. And that's why Travis Smith may not check that box.
And another one from Tedapare. No to the Bear. I agree with that one. I don't think Texas wants to be anybody's 8th school. You even saw Coach that I think he put out like a portal interest thing, and it was SMU, Oregon, and Penn State. And so I think this is when Texas can safely look another direction.
We reported on that too, but I want to hear Coach's take.
No, look, I totally agree. I don't know how many schools has he been to. Is it really 8? It could be more, but since high school, that with Sark having a culture, and I know they talk about culture all the time, but they really, really mean it. I don't think Texas is just a fit culture-wise for him. No matter the talent, you don't want to bring somebody into the locker room who may not be a culture fit because I'm not. And granted, I don't know every situation he's been through at each school, but it's just somebody I wouldn't think Texas would target just because they're building a successful program from top to bottom. And so the culture you really have to fit the culture of Texas if you're going to come play at Texas. You can't just be good. You got to be a good person on and off the field and fit in and buy into what they do there.
We reported on Monday also to echo Coach's sentiment. We talked to 2 sources about Bear Alexander on Sunday, and they were at this time, no go. Was no bueno, was not going to happen. Things can change. We know how things operate in this sphere, but right now, both of our sources tell us Texas is not going bear hunting.
Like this one from Coach Top. Braylon Russell should be Choice's first call. That's someone from Arkansas who just entered the portal today. I
Big
think
boy.
247 had it first. And, this is a rare instance where Texas, when you have two guys in that room who just suffered season-ending injuries, you're hoping for the best. But as a coach, you have to kind of, I don't want to say prepare for the worst, but that's the situation here. And a quality power SEC back like Braylon Russell coach seems like someone who would fit the bill for what Texas might be looking for.
Yeah, you look at a game like, just say Georgia, for instance, you got your big back who always falls forward, can run through arm tackles, like short yardage, goal line. Like, he can definitely be a fit at Texas. He runs hard. I feel like he'd be able to play to Coach Choice's standards of a guy who's not going to let the first guy bring him down, big, powerful back. But, I mean, why not? Like you said, you never know what guys are going to be coming off of injury, right? And, you got two talented freshmen coming in. They're still freshmen. So if you got a guy from the portal with some experience and in the SEC on top of that, why not give him a look? That's how I feel about Mr. Russell, man. He's a big, powerful guy who can run and separate too.
Yes, big boy.
I kind of like this game of throwing names at us and seeing what sticks. Nick Anderson, the Oklahoma wide receiver, man. If Nick Anderson shows up at Texas, that might be one of the craziest, and I don't think it's likely, but that may be one of the craziest recruiting things ever. You catch a game-winning pass against Texas, your family all goes to Oklahoma, and then after 1 year, you get a little sour, and understandably so, but with some of the, I don't want to say accusations, but like discussion around why he was not able to play this year. They would definitely take somebody of that caliber, I feel like, but Justin, I have a really hard time seeing Nick Anderson going to Texas.
Yeah, the caliber that's going to go up. Look at the caliber just 12 months ago. Matthew Golden, up. Isaiah Bond, up. Caliber's got to go up. The standard is the standard, and Sark is going to continue to be judicious about this. Also, didn't Nick Anderson attend Katy? And if that's the case, only our Ian Boyd would champion this kid to join the roster. Actually, I liked Nick in high school. I think he's a good kid. His brother Rodney was a good running back, but no way, no. Texas is going to get at the most one receiver, and it's going to be a really good one. I don't think Anderson checks that box either.
And unfortunately, you have to look at it from this angle. The injury thing is the big thing. Like, yeah, you had 800 yards in 2023 and 10 important touchdowns, but he played in one game this year. So or maybe one or two. Just was not a factor this year because of injury. And I feel like Texas would want something a little bit more sure than something like that. Like this one from RW. So fellas, hold on. There we go. Justin, do you think Bill Norton will be drafted? Also, Denton Ryan and Highland Park on Friday at 9:40. What are your thoughts on this one?
9:40. God.
9:40. In that area
okay. I was about to say that's either a really, really early kickoff or a really late kickoff. I didn't quite understand that, RW, but we certainly appreciate the love. I don't know if Bill Norton's going to get drafted. I don't know, but he's going to show up on an NFL roster right as soon as day 3's draft ends. If you'll be at Inside Texas for the next hour or two, right after the last day of the draft, when all the unsigned free agents start to scatter and start to kind of fill in the blanks, that's where Bill Norton, I think, can excel. Again, I've been fortunate enough to cover these guys up close over the last couple months. That's a big boy. Bill is a big guy. I just don't necessarily know if he's a draft guy. He's a guy that can stick in the league. Everybody likes the big, strong guys that are active, and Norton's had his moments. He's definitely had his moments. And so I just don't know if he's necessarily going to get drafted, but I promise you he's going to show up in an NFL camp, and he's going to make an impression. Also, Denton Ryan and Highland Park, first thing I want to say is humongous congratulations to Denton Ryan. Like, unbelievable congrats to Denton Ryan. They beat Aledo. Did not see that coming. Did not see that happening. A very, very good friend of Inside Texas passed away recently. A coach at Denton Ryan. I actually talked to his son right after that game, and it was definitely, there was some emotion there. Those players are playing with some emotion right now. That one kind of tugs on my heart, and so I'm a Ryan Raider until they're getting knocked out. I love that they're making that run. Highland Park's going to be tough. You know they are, Mr. Fundamental, but we'll see. But I got Denton Ryan in that one purely out of personal reasons.
Going to keep going. Some other names keep popping in. Kamorian Pimpton from LSU. That was someone who looks like he has, Charlie, correct me if I'm wrong, like crazy athletic traits, was still putting it together on the football field. It doesn't seem like Texas is in dire need of a tight end with the Jordan Washington and a couple more guys coming in, Amari Niblack there, Spencer Shannon, Will Randall. Like that room has guys. But do you think that, if they do go the tight end route, is Pimpton one that they should look at?
So, yeah, and then we know coming out of high school, I think Texas recruited him. I don't know if they recruited him late. And so you talk about a big athletic kid who can run, who can move. He's gotten a little bigger, so now he does inline blocking, right? Everybody wanted to say, he's just a receiver tight end, but now he'll actually get out there and block. And so if Texas goes tight end, I think this is one maybe they should put on the board because he's just so athletic. Like, he has a lot of things that you just can't teach or coach, and that's just his athleticism and his size. He'll be a mismatch on the field. I know we have that with Amari Niblack. Jordan Washington's going to be a young guy who can play. I mean, you got Nick Townsend coming in who's super athletic and can move and do it all too. So I don't know if Sark wants to go a bunch of tight end, put 4 tight ends on the field. There you go. You got one in this guy and the rest of those guys. But I'm just not sure if Texas goes after him. But if they do, he's a great get.
If they wanted to run 14 personnel, I would go with Kamorian. But honestly, Pimpton ain't easy. And neither is catching the football because he had 7 catches last season. So, again, the arrow goes up when it talks about portal guys coming to Austin. Upgrades. Got to have an upgrade.
Speaking of upgrades, if you want to upgrade your viewing experience from the TV to the game, especially for the college football playoff, you can go to Game Time right now in the Game Time app or in gametime.co. Use the promo code ON3 and get $20 off your first purchase. Nothing easier than this. You can look at lists. You can look at a map. You can see some great just get in the door prices. I can tell you it's a good cost, but it's going to be one of those things where it is not the cost to get into Kyle Field was. And when you look at the map, you can see the full all-in price, and you can see a little bit of what your viewing experience might look like. You get to be able to get a little bit of a sneak preview. And of course, again, you get the price all in, fees included. You're not surprised at the end. So use the promo code ON3 on Game Time or gametime.co for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. This is the easiest way to buy tickets. And as we all know, what time is it? It is
game time.
Oh, man, I like that one a lot. A lot of comments basically surround defensive tackle. And, this one from Derek is kind of the big one. Crazy we only have Sadir who might portal. That doesn't seem likely right now. It did about a month or two ago, but things have turned for the better there. In January at defensive tackle with any playing time, can they get 4 to 5 defensive tackles in the portal? 3 seems to be the number, especially when you get Terry and Sharma and Charles. And the old mantra about, the closer to the ball you are, the tougher it is to play early still applies. Those guys may have to play early. But here's another thing that we learned last year, that we learned throughout both portal cycles, is that there's no reason. Like, I know the guy was talking about Shaw from North Carolina. He's there, sure. But there are going to be a lot more guys who jump in the portal. And I'm trying to pull up something real quick from On3.
Including playoff teams.
Yes. And it's the portal. It's the current top transfer portal player rankings. Here we go. So let's start with number 1, Eric Singleton.
Singleton over Hudson.
Someone that Texas has expressed interest in. I'm trying to zoom in. There we go. So you have Eric Singleton, wide receiver, Micah Hudson, wide receiver, Casey Concepcion, wide receiver, running back, wide receiver, safety, tight end, wide receiver, corner, running back, corner, wide receiver, quarterback.
I see a trend here, Joe.
Bear Alexander, number 25. And then after that, where's he from? UTEP. And he's 235. That's not a defensive lineman. Jaheim Otis, who Texas may get involved with.
They're kicking the tires on him.
And then Keyshawn Silver, who's from this may be school 3 for him. So very highly rated out. But that's to say, like, the defensive tackle market right now is very, very limited.
Yes.
And this is just going to be something that takes patience to get through.
Yeah. Look, I'm going to agree. You look at last year's portal, though. Nobody thought, oh, we got Surveyor, we got Bill Norton, Alole. Nobody was maybe jumping over the moon for them, but they served a purpose. You don't have to go after the biggest, highest rated guys if you feel like they can fill a void in the need, right? And they can fit in your scheme. And then you got Coach Kenny Baker who's going to coach them up on top of that. So to me, don't run out there try to get the biggest name all the time. Go get guys that fit your culture, fit your need, fit your scheme, and then they can do exactly what you need to do. Look at Bill Norton; he's a situational player, goal line, short yardage, and he does it very well. So go out and get guys that fit your scheme, I think, and don't be so busy trying to chase all the stars in the portal rankings.
Yeah, I mean, Norton was not the highest rated guy in the portal, and they did well there. Heck, Dominic Williams was much higher rated. We know how that one turned out. Jermaine Lole ended up being better. So one of those things is just very, you have to be patient with the portal and not try to rush to the, flashy thing right there. Other positions, what do we think as far as, I'm trying to consider maybe with Kyle Flood, who in his whole time at Texas has talked with guys in the portal, but never really recruited out of the portal. Coach, when you think about that, someone who doesn't do it all too often, especially as they have kicked tires on an in-state portal lineman, how does that maybe process change for someone like Flood, who starts to go and look at these guys that he hasn't had to before?
Yeah, I mean, you look at this recruiting class and you got guys, if you're looking for a premium tackle, maybe if all 5 guys leave, I think you look for the best player available, right? If you feel like he can come in and help your team right away and upgrade your offensive line versus having to play a younger guy, I don't think this staff. I think the staff is committed to winning. I know we heard Sark say he's obsessed with it. I don't think that you would not turn over all things to try to find the best player available who can help you win that. And so if it's the offensive lineman in the portal you think can help you win, leave no stones unturned, right? Because at the end of the day, you're just trying to get to a common goal, which is win a championship. And if that player in the portal can help you do that, then so be it. Like Justin keeps saying, you want to keep raising, right? You want to keep raising this thing. And so I think you up the level of competition and players, man, you only can get better.
Justin, a lot of this has to do with looking in the portal about like, okay, knowing who's leaving, who's staying. This one from RW, I know it won't happen, but it wouldn't hurt Bond to come back for another season. Surely 500 yards isn't what he had in mind, and Arch is a deep ball guy. I feel like that's something that is not a likely outcome.
No. Isaiah Bond will go to the NFL draft. I have an itch that tells me he might have tried to go to the NFL draft in the middle of the season already. Isaiah Bond's been valuable, but limited. And he's had some injuries, and he's still had some cases of the drops, which we hadn't really seen in the season. Spring and fall practice, he was having a hard time, but it came around, and he got better about it in the season. But if you'll even notice in the last few games, it feels like him and Quinn aren't even on the same page, especially the A&M game. And so, yeah, Bond wanted more yards, but look, the NFL is going to draft on potential, and he's going to run fast. He's going to test well. He'll interview, but he's going to do all right, and he's going to wind up probably being a day 2 draft pick just because of his potential and his athleticism. But returning to Texas, I would be shocked if that kid is still in a locker in January 22nd.
A lot of questions about specialists. Where do y'all fall on that one, Charlie?
I've actually, in the article, I listed a few kickers that the Texans probably maybe could target. I mean, look, kickers, you don't really think you need a kicker until you know you need one. And so I don't mind going to the portal grabbing a kicker, an experienced kicker who plays at maybe somewhere like Eastern Michigan or Kent State, who has 2 really good kickers. Those guys are in the portal. You're looking for some consistency in that. It really doesn't matter if it comes from high school. Walk on like Mac Brown one guy and Dusty Mangum from the soccer team from North Mesquite. Whatever you can find the best player or the best kicker at, it's hey, I'm all for it. If that's portal or high school. So it's all about winning. Special teams are super important. And you see a lot of teams do it.
And you've heard me on this talk a lot about like, hey, there are only limited number of spots that you can, use. You have 85. Do you really want to add another one? That type of thing. But at a certain point, I think I've come around to the idea that, hey, you need those guys filling those 85 spots to be good, to be, reliable, especially at the kicker spot and especially at punter. Kicker I could buy. Punter, part of me wonders if they're just going to try to let Kern get healthy because he's a freshman. And
True freshman.
Michael Dixon's freshman year was bad. But you can go ahead and still, that's the thing. Michael Dixon's freshman year, there wasn't a chance to get another guy for him to, be able to develop. They just let him develop. I don't know if there's that same type of patience at this point.
I think they'll bring it. Knowing Jeff Banks, and I know people are calling for another special teams coach. No, Jeff Banks is the best in the country. Don't get it twisted. It's a third phase of the game because of Jeff Banks. I do believe they'll bring in another punter, walk on of the sorts from the portal that's played at another school, similar to what they did either last year or the year before last, just for the competition, just to make sure they're pushing Kern. And just to make sure, because if Kern gets hurt again, I mean, they've got to make sure that's solidified. In the kicking department, did we see Bert Auburn falling off a cliff? We didn't see that the first 2 or 3 years. I was a little surprised to see it this year. And our Ian Boyd made a really good point. He didn't miss kicks he's supposed to make. He missed kicks that were just kind of basic, that weren't life or death, that didn't, necessarily keep the game going. The ones that were important, Bert Auburn's pretty nails. It's all the other ones that didn't necessarily work out. And Joe, you're the special teams guru here. When Texas special teams go sideways, viewers, Jeff Banks calls Joe. And so to me, whenever he talks about kicking and punting, that's when I pay attention.
Got this super chat from Brian Alfaro, tight end. It's super important. They like Jordan Washington. They got Amari Niblack, Spencer Shannon. They like Nick Townsend. Maybe. I feel like other positions, and we kind of covered this, maybe higher up in the pecking order. Trying to find.
Townsend's going to play as a true freshman.
Are you sure? Are you saying Texas isn't missing Joe DeCamillis? Here's the thing.
That's a good one.
I mean, maybe it's possible. I mean, we can. How else do you? I'm not saying that the step down is explained only by his absence, but there's a
step up was definitely his help.
Yeah, I mean, there's a contribution that he made last year that is not being made.
That's when you have an embarrassment of riches in analysts. The guys that have done, Nick Saban did this, that had just so many different, avenues that could add to it. It was almost like having Gary Patterson as that third defensive assistant, and he was valuable just in that role because he knew everything. So of course there would be a step back with Joe DeCamillis being helping out Banks and those guys, but I don't think we expected to see it in the kicking game. Like I really didn't. And in the return game, when Bolden wasn't giving us all heart attacks, the guy was nails. The guy was good. And so, there would be a little bit of a step back. That's just because instead of having 4 cooks in the kitchen, now there's only 3.
I like this one, Coach. If Niblack is back next year, fastest tight end room since.
I'm not sure I would call it fast.
Yeah. Niblack can run, but I mean, I don't know.
Niblack's really the only one that I would consider fast. Jordan Washington's just a big, fluid athlete. Nick Townsend is a big, mean, fluid athlete. Spencer Shannon, two-sport, big, fluid athlete. I don't necessarily know if speed is the differentiator in that room, but nobody's Kyle Pitts on this roster, and for good reason. Kyle Pitts. There's no Kyle Pitts on any college rosters per se. Sure. So I'm not sure if it'll be the fastest room. If you ask Sark, he just wants to make sure it's the best blocking room and catches 4 to 5 passes a game.
Yeah,
I like. We got a good question from a couple minutes earlier from Derek. With all the transfers in from last year, how many stay another year? So going over the list, that is Velton Gardner out of eligibility, Jermaine Lele out of eligibility, Bill Norton out of eligibility, Javian Cole. I think he'll stick around.
I do too. I think
they kind of viewed him as this is kind of a red shirt.
Right.
Silas, I think Silas could use the COVID year, but I don't know if he will.
If he could, he should.
He should, yeah.
And then let's see who else.
How valuable was Silas even in the passing game for 3 or 4 times this year? Man, if Silas has some eligibility, get him back.
True.
Zendaya's leaving. Nyblack's coming back. Trey Moore we'll see, and Matthew Golden we'll see. You know, those are 2 guys that are going to have NFL decisions, I feel like.
Matthew Golden is I don't see him coming back.
He's steady rising, right?
He's always open. Since week 1, that guy's always open. And he's actually becoming – him and DeAndre Moore are becoming Quinn's big targets.
Yep.
Matthew Golden coming back would be a gigantic boom. Almost, not entirely, but almost like a Jahdae Barron coming back last year for Texas this year. Not as much, but still would be really significant. But I just think his draft stock – listen, when he tests, he's going to run a 10-3 in his sleep. Like, this kid can go.
Yeah.
And he's got soft hands. Might get dinged a little bit for his size. Trey Moore's another one almost in the same category. Kind of had a little slow start. Actually played well early, but just didn't have the numbers that fans wanted. Then he said, all right, I'll get you some numbers. In the last 4 weeks, has been unblockable. And so I think Trey, it'll all depend on draft grade. If he's a day 1 or day 2 kid, and right now I don't think he is, I think he comes back. If he's a day 3 guy, that's a different conversation. That's a guy that may want to stick around and try to get another year because, listen, we've learned covering Texas football, you cannot have too many edge rushers. This team went a decade without hitting the quarterback. Now they're doing it like it's their job. If Trey Moore wants to stick around for another year, him and Silas Bolden need to get an apartment together.
I think we got time for one more good one. Get it back on the recruiting front, and a good thing to close things out on. Let me see if I can get it. Artistically incredible. As of right now, what grade would you give the 2022 class? A lot of players have transferred from that group. That was the first class that Sark really had the ability to, put recruiting efforts forward with.
That was his first class, right? Not considering the transition class.
Correct. So here we go, and I think we can do this pretty quick. DJ Campbell has worked out really well. Kelvin Banks has worked out really well.
Pretty good.
Terrence Brooks, you got 2 years of quality play from him. He elected to leave and
you flipped a late Ohio State kid. I like that.
And I think he was a part of the Illini's 9-3 season.
And he also I think helped with Ryan Watts transferring to Texas as well and getting that one good year.
Would you have liked him maybe again? Maybe, but you saw Malik Muhammad had a really great year as well. So you would have liked for him to stay, but the effect of him leaving was not.
The writing was on the wall on that one.
Neto, still an unknown, hasn't broken the starting lineup yet.
But he's valuable depth who probably you could start next year.
Brendan Thompson, bust for Texas.
Bust.
BJ Allen Jr., bust for Texas.
North Texas now, I think.
Yeah.
Justice Finkley, depth player.
Solid. He's been solid.
You would prefer
program guy.
I prefer more from someone
good in the locker room guy too.
Definitely.
But good quality depth. Javon Tapp, transfer, bust for Texas.
Back in the portal,
yeah. Jure Bledsoe, bust for Texas. Jalen Gilbo has hit.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm pleasantly surprised there. We thought he was going to be good. I didn't think he was going to be starting by his sophomore, junior year good and being valuable. Give Gilbo his flowers.
Yes.
He started as a true freshman, I think, before he got dinged up a little bit.
Right. Well, yeah, I think it was for injury too. Wasn't Barron hurt or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
Chris Ross didn't work out. Bust
Didn't
for
have
Texas.
to wait.
Jaden Blue, I think
I'm surprised he's done this well.
I think you are incredibly pleased with what he's provided, but you're also looking for a little bit more.
Yeah, especially after a kid that didn't play his senior year of high school.
Right.
Malik Murphy.
Back in the portal after a season record year, dude. Hard not to root for that kid.
Sure.
Quarterback, I feel like you have to evaluate maybe on a different scale, but I don't know what you say about him. He did his job.
He's undefeated as a Texas starter. That's what I say.
Austin Jordan played well for a little bit, but decided to
Got
leave.
recruited over.
Right.
Cam Williams has been a hit.
Yeah.
Chisholm.
Aaron Bryant, depth who wants to leave.
Yeah.
Ethan Burke has hit.
Especially when healthy.
Yeah, definitely.
LTG didn't work out, but now,
they took him.
and then Derek Brown didn't work out. Malik Agbo has been more than just a depth piece. I feel like been useful.
Good in the locker room.
Yes.
Could factor in for offensive line next year. Cole Hudson has hit.
Very versatile.
Connor Robertson, we'll see. He's played. Travell Johnson, Xavier Bryce, Zach Swanson, Savion Red. Didn't really work out.
No.
And then Will Stone and Lance St. Louis. You may not know their names. That means they do their job pretty well, especially at those positions. So
I think they did pretty good in 2022. I think they did. That was the year of getting all the offensive linemen that would potentially block for Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning. And so that, to me, success. More a lot of hits in that one.
I'm with you there. I think with that, that's a good one to end it on. So thank you for watching. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and of course, head to Inside Texas. We're going to have a lot of transfer portal notes over the course of the next week. And then, dang, we got a playoff game to talk about. So, Coach, thank you. Justin, thank you. We'll see you next time on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel powered by InsideTexas.com.